Good afternoon, everybody. And for those of you all that are not on the East Coast, I guess you might still be having a good morning. My name is Glenn Anstead. I'm a partner here at Raffa in the technology practice. And this afternoon, we're going to be showing you some of the real cool things that are coming out with Dynamics SL 2018. Um, we've got Jeff Suen from Microsoft and Valerie Borick from Plumline, and they're going to talk to us today and illustrate a little bit about what the new features are in SL 2018. We're also going to talk about the life cycle, SL7, SL 2011, what's released this year. Um, some of the stuff that Jeff's going to show in web apps, I think, are really neat. I mean, it's really come a long way since the early days back in the 2011 timeframe. The other thing for Power BI, business analytics, dashboards, KPIs, Power Apps for SL, workflow and business process enhancements. I know what everybody's anxious to see is, what's going to be new in SL 2018 because many of you, many of the Raffa clients are already on 2015 or are in the process of getting ready to move to 2015. But it's always good to know that there's a nice light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a freight train. It's SL 2018 coming towards us, and it's got some really nice features that I think we're going to get excited about. We're going to wrap up today with Valerie is going to show us some of the proven enhancements, solutions for SL that Plumline has developed and has available. One of the nice things for those of you that are attending today, Plumline is offering a discount for those of you that order the software within a certain period of time after today's webinar. So if one of these things is appealing to you, reach out to us here at on the Raffa SL team, and we can certainly work with you and Plumline to see if it's a good fit. One thing before we get started here, we talk about Raffa, but before we get started, for those of you, just a quick reminder, anytime you need to reach out to anyone on the Raffa SL team, you can reach us through solomon@raffa.com. And that email goes into our SL consulting distribution list. And if you've got a support issue, you need some answers on things, just put it in there, and one of our team will be back in touch with you really quickly. So I really, for those of you that are or are not familiar with Raffa, who are we? We're about a 300-person professional services team organization located in Washington, D.C., with offices in Rockville, Maryland as well. We've been around since 1984. We are a woman-owned business, and we've been serving the nonprofit community and the for-profit community for a long, long time. We've got a lot of partners. We've got diversity all through the organization, and one of the key things that we like to try to pride ourselves is that we're here to help our clients succeed. Your success results in a successful relationship for both of us. We have a wide range of services. Many of you today are using us for utilizing Raffa for your ERP accounting system solutions through SL. We have a lot of GovCon expertise, software development. We've got a CIO and managed IT services. So if your organization is looking to try to expand that footprint and need some help there, we've got resources to help. And then we've got a lot of other areas that are standard from a CPA firm or professional organization we can provide help and assistance with. We've been recognized by a lot of the talking heads in the market space out there that we're a pretty good organization. Your business, I think, is more important to us than what anyone says about us being in a top 100. We value the relationship with our clients. And the next slide is just a real quick, thought. What is an accounting system life cycle? So when you're looking at software, there's software that has just come out, and there's a lot of organizations out there that are going heavy into the cloud, and they just got launched in the last year. Um, Sometimes it's limited features, missing modules, a lot of bugs, and then it evolved just like we have evolved from childhood, adolescence, maturity, old age. Software does the same thing. One of the things that I really like about working with the Dynamics SL team and Jeff and the Plumline folks is, on one hand, people could say, oh my gosh, SL's been around for a million years. That must be an old age. Well, it would be if they never did anything to make it better. And one of the great benefits that I think Microsoft and Plumline, as well as ourselves from a partner perspective, bring is we're constantly introducing new feature functionalities that really reinvent the product, sort of moving in that cycle around adolescence and maturity. And that's the key to think about with your investment in SL. It's 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 evolving there in that central ground. There are some systems out there. I'm not going to go and try to name them, but they built something that was pretty cool, 10 or 15 years ago, and they haven't done anything to it, and it's slowly dying. That's the beauty of SL, that we've got a long life ahead of us. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff, and he's going to talk a little bit about, guess what, the life cycle and why you made the right choice in being with Dynamics SL. Jeff, go ahead.
Well, Glenn, I don't really know how to follow that, Glenn. That was amazing. And first of all, kudos to everyone on the call for choosing Raffa. And if you've worked with Glenn, you know what a wonderful person he is and a wonderful company that you've connected with. So first of all, I'm super glad that you guys are with Raffa because of all the great things that Glenn does for the community and also for the product. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and I'll try to follow those great words of Glenn that as Glenn has just talked about. So let's talk about life cycle. What does that mean? Well, I just wanted to let everyone know about some things that are happening with some of the versions of SL. First, specifically one, Microsoft Dynamics SL7. Believe it or not, that is a 10-year-old product at this point. And so what does that mean? Well, in the Microsoft world, we do 5 years of mainstream support and 5 years of extended support, and then it goes off of those areas. But really, what does that mean to you? Well, if you ask Jeff, the marketing person, of course, what Jeff's going to say is that means it's time to upgrade. If you happen to still be on SL7, which there are some people still out there, not a lot, of course, I'm going to tell you it's time to upgrade to the latest and greatest version. But in all honesty, what does that really mean to you as an end user? Well, that means that right now, if you experience an issue, you will not be able to call, quote unquote, / submit a request for assistance if you're on SL7. Now, I'm assuming if you are on SL7, you've probably had something worked out because you've been off kind of the mainstream support for a while. But I wanted to let you guys know that that's where we are with SL7. It has reached kind of the end of its quote unquote life cycle, so to speak. It is out of the standard support life cycle, but some people may still be on it. But again, that's a good reason if you are still sitting on SL7 that you want to make sure you are upgrading so you're on a product that is supported. And how does that kind of work across all the versions of SL? Well, let's just kind of lay it out here just so we kind of have an understanding of where we are. So we first talked about SL7 on the right-hand side. Support has officially ended. And so basically meaning no support calls / emails that you can submit on SL7. Let's move to the more recent version. You currently, if you're on SL 2011, you are in extended support. Now, what does that mean? What's the difference? Well, that means that when you're in extended support, you can submit a request. You can get assistance directly through Microsoft, but there are no hot fixes and there's no year-end updates being created. So that means if you find an issue and it is not data corrupting, that more than likely that is not going to be addressed in that version. It also means that if you are a payroll person and you need your year-end updates, those will not be created for you automatically. So Microsoft is not creating those. So again, that's you on Microsoft Dynamics SL 2011 people. Just to give you an idea, when does extended support end for SL 2011? That's going to end in July 13th of 2021 will you go from that extended to the end of support for SL 2011. So hopefully that gives you some idea to go, okay, I can see where we're at with that. And for all of my people that are up to date, thank you for being up to date. We are in mainstream support. That means that you can put in a request for a hotfix and you will get year-end updates. Now, how long will I get those? Well, I'll get those year-end updates through 2020. So you've got some good here. We're getting close, about what, 3 years out? So it's getting close, but you still have a year or two on that where you're still going to be getting year-end updates. And then that would move into extended support, and that will go through 2025. Again, good, gives you kind of a look at it here, kind of see where you are in that area, and then connect to your Raffa person or to Glenn to discuss, okay, we're in the 2011 or SL7 and we need to make sure we have a plan going forward this next year to move up. And hopefully this gives you that information. So there you have it. So what I also wanted to do is kind of take a look at what have we done in the last year in the SL world. The big areas would be as of late last year, pretty much one of the last days of 2016, we released Microsoft Dynamics 2015 CU2. And if you haven't been around, we've changed our names to kind of comply with the rest of Microsoft. CU is a cumulative update, which generally just means it's the roll-up of hot fixes. So this means that when you're upgrading to SL 2015, you would go up to CU2 because you don't want to have to implement any hot fixes that have happened. This is kind of a roll-up of that. But we took it a step further, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in my presentation. We added some things around Power BI. Now, if you haven't heard of Power BI, just in about 5 or 10 minutes, I will tell you a lot more about it and what it is. But think of it, it's a nice reporting tool that gives you kind of a visual dashboard of what's going on in your system. And that all released last year, pretty much the last day of 2016 did that release. So generally a CU2 is just hot fixes, but we kind of wanted to add something more based on the popularity of this Power BI area. Now the other area that we spent a lot of time, and this initially was started in the December timeframe, is we went ahead and released in December some new web apps and some enhancements to web apps, along with, of course, some hot fixes. But what it did is we changed kind of the release cycle of web apps. Used to be you'd get one, every once in a while. But what we were running into is Jeff always wants more, and just like Glenn was talking about, this is a product that we're continually looking to improve. So I spoke with the web apps people and I said, listen, really what I'd like to have is I'd like to be able to release new features and new updates on a monthly basis. So we've been doing this through, and actually there should be an update. There should be October, because October's is coming out as well. But we're doing monthly releases on web apps. Now what that allows us to do is, the cycle, it's monthly, and then you know that when a hotfix is submitted, if you happen to find something into a specific area, that it's not something you're going to have to wait 6, 12, 18 months to get a hotfix. This is something that we're going to be able to address in the much near future. So that's obviously one benefit, but also it means that I can add new enhancements. And one of the things that I hope you will reach out to talk to Glenn about is that we have been adding a lot of enhancements to the core product based on things that Jeff wants, but also things that our customers want, which obviously those are the most important ones. So we've got a lot of neat enhancements that we've done to the product based on that, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. And that second will be now. So what is web apps? For those of you who might not be using it, it is the way to remotely access Dynamics SL. It is a web page, and the reason why we've gone with a web page is it means that we have a web page that can be accessed on a Microsoft device, an Apple device, and even an Android device. So that means that we don't have to create an application. It is a website that we can alter, and then everyone gets access to that same bit of information. But again, making it available through the web apps makes SL be more available to more areas inside of your company. Now, again, last December, we came out with some new web apps in the end of the year, vendor maintenance, customer maintenance, and payroll. So we're addressing some of the needs of people to be remote. That means that I can set up these things remotely. Plus, we added, over the past 10, 11 months now, we've added over 75 plus enhancements to the core product, along with hot fixes as well. But these are some things that I can actually talk about. And so let's talk about what you have, and then what I'll do is I'm going to go through a couple examples of some of the enhancements that we've done. But let's just talk real quickly, in case you don't happen to use web apps, what are the things that you have out there? Now, as a background, we've always had access remotely for Dynamics SL. It used to be called something different in the past. It was called the Business Portal. But what it did is most of the users of the Business Portal were people who wanted to get access to their project information. So we first needed to replicate that. So we've got project time entry. We've got timesheet entry for people whose my job is to put in time for multiple people. So we have that. That's new. Expense entry with attachments, the approvals of these items as well. I can set up a brand new or edit an existing project. I can set up new resources. So, we've hired a new person. I'm not at the office. I can set them up. I can also set up the rates that will be associated to them. So maybe Jeff is being paid, $25 for this presentation today, so I can set up that information, again, remotely as well. And then last in this list that we have there is we also have, well, how am I doing in my projects? I've set them up, I've assigned people, I've budgeted. How are we doing against those things? And we have that whole functionality available to you via a web app as well. Now, the cool things on top of that as well is we have an employee utilization module where you can say, okay, Jeff, you need to be 70% billable, so we can actually establish that information inside of SL and keep track of it against it. And even cooler on top of that is that this whole resource planning feature, which is something that I really like, allows me to say, okay, I have a project, I'm budgeting 100 hours for a consultant. I'm not really sure who it is at this time, but I know that's what I'm going to need. This resource planning allows me to set up a kind of sandbox area where it says, okay, I'm going to try Jeff for this many hours and Val for this many hours and Glenn, and set them up and go, okay, yep, let's see what that looks like, and say, okay, yeah, I like that or I don't like that, and switch things around. So it allows me to play around in the sandbox until I'm happy with it, and then I can actually move forward with those assignments as well. As I said, we have vendor, customer, and payroll employee maintenances all available, so I can set up new or edit existing customers or vendors that are out there. And then some really neat things for the people that are running or need to see access to the reports is we have a whole reporting area. So we've pretty much given you a good chunk of your reports. Now, we're not going to put your invoices or your checks out there, but you can get to a good chunk of those reports remotely and be able to run them, and you don't need to install anything special, no drivers or anything like that. Again, you can run reports remotely and view them remotely. Also, our quick query feature, all the cool ability to slice and dice the information to get what you need, that's available remotely, as well as an inventory lookup screen for people who need that remotely. This adds on top of our core features of being able to do our requisitioning module item request screens remotely, as well as payroll and advanced payroll time card entry. So those are just some of the things those are the things that are available right now that we continue to work on and enhance. And speaking of enhancements, I'm going to go give you just a few highlights of some of the things that I thought were really neat. Now, the first one is the menu. Now, the menu system is fine, and a lot of people are perfectly fine with being able to click on these things, but one of the things that I asked for was that I need this to be a little more colorful, something that when I am running it on a small device, it makes it much easier for me to push my finger to get this. So if I'm on my phone right now, I can get the project, but it's a little bit more of a smaller look. So one of the things that I'm excited to announce that we now have full icons that are available. So now I've got an icon that's much easier to place my finger on to get to it, but also, to be honest with you, for me, it's now visual. It looks nice. It'll grow and shrink based on the size of my screen. So now I've got that whole look. And also, too, a little thing that it didn't really point out here, but we also have a way to let you know that you have approvals or things that need your attention. This little item down here will actually scroll across the bottom, letting you know. So you've got a message up here, but you also have this little scroll item across the bottom. And this is available today. So if you download and get web apps, the latest versions of web apps, you will have this functionality. Now, one of the things we always like to do is with our new features is we want you to be able to turn it on and turn it off. So if you don't like my icons, no problem, and you like the old menu, great. We're not going to force it on you. You can turn this on or off. One of the other things that I asked as well is that they might not like my icons. Now, right now, when I'm in here, we've gone ahead and created colors that allow you to jump to specific areas. So if I'm going into project, I can see the color and know that I've gone into the appropriate submenu to see all the different items because they all have that same color. So you have the color ability as well. But we also have the ability to add a custom tile. Let's say you can actually literally just open up the tiles and make an edit to them, and you can put a little smiley face, or you can be really silly and put a picture of yourself on an icon, because when you're doing this live, it gets a lot of laughs, but it doesn't always work so well when you're presenting this webinar. So I'll assume you thought it was silly and laughed and move on. But again, the idea here is that you can customize it. It's as simple as basically opening up, I think this was the item request icon. I opened up the item request icon and I put in a new version of it that had my picture on it. Very simple. Again, what it means to you is that you can customize it for your needs, making it look the way that you want it to look. So I'm not going to make you use my icons. I'm going to leave it open to you to make changes as well. Now, the other one that I really, really like is a feature that, not saying that I do this all the time, but it happens, is that if you are doing your time card entry, and here's just a picture of that time card entry, and it's Friday, and it's 5 o'clock, and boy, I want to be done. And I come in here, and instead of verifying that I've put my 8 hours per day in here, I just quickly click on the status and change it to completed, and I click on the Save button. And then I look down to the bottom and go, oh no, I forgot to put the rest of the time. I have my project, great, project and task is in there, but you know what, I forgot to put in the rest of the time. Well, what you'd have to usually do now, let's say Val is my boss, which generally she is, I would have to call her up on a Friday night and say, hey, Val, could you reject my time card because I completely forgot to put in my rest of my time? And Val might be busy doing something already or busy on with another customer, and I'm kind of butting in. And so I would rather not have to bother Val, and I'm probably a little embarrassed by the fact that I did this. So what we've added is a feature that can be turned on, doesn't need to be turned on, that allows you to pull up that time card, hit the summary button, and now it has a reopen button. So that means that I can click on reopen, it opens up and says, oh, tell me why you want to reopen it. I have to put a reason. And then I click on reopen and ta-da, it is open and available for me to start editing. Now the way it works is that basically you can reopen anytime before Val takes a look at it and starts editing it or approving it. So as soon as she does, that turns off the whole reopen feature. But it makes sense. Again, we can turn it on, turn it off. And what will happen is Val will get that initial email that says, hey, Jeff submitted his time, and then they'll get another email saying, hey, oh, by the way, he reopened his time card, and this is the reason why he forgot to put in his time. So that information will be there for Val to understand why I did that. I'm available to open it, edit it, and move forward. The next thing is an item that we're going to highlight, but one of the things that you can start doing is adding external links. So this is there's a little bit behind it. It's not as free-forming as I want it to be yet, but the idea is that we had a lot of people who used Business Portal in the past and was able to add links to other products, you know, whether they wanted to go to an internal site or to something else, but you can do that same thing inside of web apps as well. We can tell you how to do that, but that's something that we've been adding to it as well. Next is making things easier during data entry. One of the things that, if you're like me, when I do my expense entry, I don't like the fact that I have to usually populate the project and task over and over and over again for every line item. So what we've added is a feature you can turn on that when you do a new line item, what it will do is when I go ahead and I put in an expense type, so it's assuming I'm typing that in, when I do that, it automatically looks at the previous line and copies that information down for me. So the benefit here is I don't have to type the project and task over and over and over again. It's automatically populating it for me. So then I don't need to worry about that. And it's great too. So and you might say, well, but Jeff, sometimes I mix my projects together. Some projects are for some items. Don't worry, you can change that, and then the next line item will default to that same project and task that you've changed it to. So great feature functionality there to use. Now, one of the items that's coming soon are for my people that do a lot or are required to put things into the system like an invoice comment or a comment about the day. And what it is we are updating this, and I apologize, it's a little blurry here, but the idea behind it is that right now we have an invoice comment and day information button, and they're located down in the below the grid. But a lot of people are required that says, Jeff, before you submit your time, you need to put an invoice comment for every day, because that's what our customers have told us you have to do. So what this allows me to quickly see in looking at this grid, so Monday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I can quickly view that there's an invoice comment for every day. There's not for these other days. So one, I can get to the invoice comment and the day info buttons quicker, but two, I can visually see, do I have anything entered in there? So for example, I could look at this and go, oh, you know what? I haven't done it for this second project for Saturday, and I need to interact with it. So this is coming soon. This is something that actually already exists in our SL 2018 version of web apps that we're working on, but also my thought, and I'm pushing hard to get this one rolled back in here, so this should be coming here in the next month or two's release. So hopefully you've seen, again, the big thing for web apps is we continue to really see great success around our monthly release cycle. A lot of positive feedback, a lot of ways for me to get features into the product that people want, not in 6 to 12 months, but something that's much sooner that I can get them out. So we'll continue to do that. So we'll continue to add those new features. We're getting close to 2018, so some of those things might switch to 2018, but in general, we're going to continue to try to keep those in parity. And if you, as a customer, say, you know what, I am using web apps and I have things that I'd like to enhance, please contact Glenn and have him contact me. I'd love to meet with you, talk to you about what items you would like to add. I just did it the other day and I've already submitted these things. So please know that we are definitely interested in getting your feedback on web apps and continue to enhance them. Now, the next area that I want to talk about is around some of the areas that Microsoft has been enhancing and doing a lot of investment in. And that's one of the benefits of us as Microsoft company is all the areas that we invest in. There's things like Power BI. We'll talk a second about Power Apps, Flow. And this is not something that they just put out and let it sit there. Power BI is basically a visualization tool that allows me to connect to my data and provide it in a way that I can access, obviously on my desktop, but also on my tablet, on my phone. And so that's one of the benefits of it. But the cool thing about it too is that this thing can connect to something as simple as an Excel document. I don't need to create anything fancy. I could just connect this to the Excel or something as detailed as a Microsoft Dynamics SL database and everything in between. So that means that I've got one tool that I can use to really show some of the great information that we have out there. And the nice thing about Power BI is this isn't a thing that they put out a year or so ago and just let it sit there. They are constantly updating this. There's monthly releases, just like our web apps. They do a monthly release where they're enhancing, adding new feature functionality. I mean, the things that I've seen just over the year that we've released it, it's just been amazing and continues to amaze me in the things that Microsoft is doing around Power BI. So what can Power BI do for you today? Well, I talked about the fact that when we released our CU2 release back in the end of December, that we added a Power BI dashboard and some Power BI items. And let's kind of talk about those. In case you haven't seen them yet, I want you to be aware of them. So first, I wanted you to be aware of that there is a document. So you might say today, hey, I'd love to connect Power BI to Dynamics SL. How do I do it? Well, there is actually a document that's available inside of that release that will allow you to walk through it. And basically what it'll show you to do is how to get Power BI, and then once you have Power BI installed, how to connect it to your Dynamics SL database. So that might be great for you. Obviously, your Raffa associates and Glenn can provide you with a lot more than that, but you might just want to get that. Now, just to also raise my hand and make sure you understand, you don't need to move up the CU2 to get this document or these things I'm about to show you. They work on any SL 2015 installation, but I just want to make sure that we just happen to use CU2 happened to be coming out the exact same time this dashboard was. So we figured, hey, why don't we just bundle it together, make it easier for people to get and for us to keep track of. Now, what we also did on top of that is I said, you know, that's going to be a great document because it's going to get people a good starting point, but I want to up the ante. I want to take it beyond that. And that's where we went ahead and created our own Power BI dashboards for Power BI to be able to connect to your Dynamics SL 2015 today. And let's talk about, well, what is this? Well, a dashboard, obviously, just as a general term, is a way to take multiple reports, putting them together on one interface or one screen to provide you a quick visualization to understand what's going on and be able to take action on those items. So that's exactly what we've done here. So what we've done here is at the upper portion here is I'm able to look at my month-to-date labor and expenses for my project for the month-to-date, taking a look at these projects right now. Now, generally, assuming this is demo data, but generally you would see a difference. You'd see, you know, we're 80% labor, we're 20% expenses, and what is that? So this obviously, the next screenshot I show you will be a little bit nicer, but again, this is the idea to get that quick look at what's going on there in case there's something that you want to look into. Next, down below, we could look at gross margin, and we're looking at our gross margin for this month versus the prior month. Again, that gives you how are we trending. So we can see here's the previous month, and it looks like we're trending up on pretty much all of those. That gives me that good feeling, okay, our gross margin is good. We're not decreasing, it's not dropping off, we're doing quite well. And then on the right-hand side, I've got this revenue, labor, and expenses. And what this allows me to do, and this one is actually a little bit more interactive, and it allows me to go ahead, start at a top level, see how we're doing, see who, in this case, the project managers that are working on items, and then be able to drill down to see exactly where they're putting all their time and money is going against. And you can see I've drilled down to the actual months of that particular quarter to see exactly how this money is coming out into this for this particular person. But again, interactive, being able to click on it, interact it, drill down. These are interactive as well. I can click on one of them and have all the other reports kind of report based on what I choose there. And then the bottom right-hand corner, we've got our top 10 projects. This one's happened to be done by month-to-date revenue, and it allows us to see exactly what's going on with this project and which are the top ones. Now, the other thing that's nice about it is you might say, okay, you've given me this report, it's going to show me what it shows me, but what also you need to have is you need the ability to kind of slice and dice with that data that's out there. So what we're going to be able to do here is go in and choose, I can choose multiple, I can use 1 year or multiple years, or one period or multiple periods at the time, and based on what I choose, it will update the report the information that I see on the report. I can also tell it what I want to display on these two reports, whether it's a top 5, 10, 20, so forth. I can be able to choose that information as well. Now, what we've also done as well, we've taken that exact same report, and I told you this was month to date. We've also taken this and created what we call an inception to date, which says show me from the beginning of the project to where we are now, all the numbers that are out there, and then let me get an idea of how we're doing overall. So we have a month to date and an inception date version of that same exact report. Again, you can give you different views of the data that you have out there. And the last is to kind of, you want to know who's doing really well and who's not doing so well. Well, we've got that report for you as well. We have the top projects and the bottom projects, top project managers and bottom project managers that are out there. Again, we can go ahead and slice it and dice it and choose how many we want to see, choose how many periods that we have out there. But the part that I really liked is that what it allows me to do, and I don't have a screenshot of it, but what it allows me to do is I can choose multiple measures at a time. So maybe I want to look at revenue versus expenses. I can click both of these, and then the reports will pull up and show me what the top items are based on having the revenue expenses displayed on that same report. So you can see all the different ways we already have it set up for you to slice and dice it. And the idea behind it is just to show you some of the things that you can start with, so that if you look at this and go, wow, this is getting really close, this is really great, what I'd like to do is take it to the next step, and that's exactly what we want you to do. We want you to take this, work with it, work with your Raffa associates and people at Raffa's Associates to get and understand what you need to do next to keep on using Power BI and take it to the next area. So very, very cool stuff, and hopefully you're seeing something that goes, oh wow, I could definitely use that. And that's exactly the idea that we're going to be delivering around Power BI. Now, another Microsoft functionality that they've come out with, or feature they've come out with, is called Power Apps. Now, the idea behind Power Apps is that you, as a person, have the knowledge of your data and how you would like to view it. Now, generally, in the past, if you wanted to have a quote-unquote app that you could view the data or maybe interact with the data, you would have to call up somebody and have to develop you maybe an application that runs inside of Dynamics SL or runs in some platform. And you'd probably have to hire somebody, which is fine and still can be done. But one of the things that Microsoft said is, hey, listen, if you've got the knowledge of how you want to interact with your data, why don't we provide you with a simple tool that will make it available for you to actually create an app or a workflow or do whatever you need to do to interact with your data. And that's what they did with Power Apps. We're going to see a demo here in a second of how you can use that. But the idea behind it is it could be as simple as I just want to see a list of my customers. I mean, that could be a Power App, and it's just going to show you what the customers are and give you pertinent information on it. You could, hey, say I want to see, full budget information and graphs and pictures and things that are Power BI-ish and put them all together. That's very possible as well. And the nice thing about it is, again, it's going to be available to you wherever you're at. You don't need no app stores required. It's something you can view and load and run on top of any of the devices that you have. Now, on top of that, again, I'm sorry, I apologize. It's just basically telling you that, again, we're going to allow you to take Power Apps and connect it to the data that you need. It could be as simple as connecting to an Excel document, SharePoint, or Dynamics SL database, really what it's saying here. And again, taking what you know, and in this case, what Raffa knows as well, and being able to take and create a visual tool that you can interact with that data. Again, all without having to write code. Now, the next area that we did is something around another feature that Microsoft has come out with over the last year called Flow. And Flow really is a way to kind of monitor and be notified when things are happening inside anywhere. I was going to say your SL database, but it could be anywhere. In this particular example we have that I took from their site is they have a situation where maybe you guys, it's important to see who's tweeting about you. So you can actually have a flow that monitors your Twitter, and it looks that whenever you are notified, that will automatically can notify that person. So let's say, for example, Val says something very nice about the company. I can automatically go ahead and send her an email that says, Val, thank you very much for your tweet. We appreciate this, blah, 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 and something that I could send to her. Now, at the same time, let's say it's Glenn and Val say something. I can also get a report internally that says, hey, by the way, Val and Glenn said something really nice about you. Here's their information, and it can automatically email it to me. Again, I don't need to do anything special. It emails it to me, I can review it, and then I even have the option to interact with that data. I might look at it and go, yeah, that's good. You know what? I'd really like to push that into Dynamics. So I could click a button that said, that looks great. It would go off and take the flow and automatically put that data into your Dynamics database. So setting them up as a customer or whatever you have automatically set up. So you really have some great functionality just out of the gate with Flow. And if you go to the Flow site, you'll see there's a lot of different things. You know, you could have it go ahead and text you today's weather. It can do those things. It can then be used to build to connect to your Dynamics SL data as well. Now, those are exciting, again, available wherever you need them, desktop, tablet, PC, and so forth. The other area that I want to talk about is what have we done around this? And we have an early version of what we're going to be delivering with SL 2018, an early version of our Power App and Flow. And what I went to him, I said, hey, listen, I want to be able to give people an app that allows them to view their receivables, so customers that are supposed to be paying them. If you think your aging is not run, you can actually run your aging remotely, be able to interact and email aging results to a person, as well as being able to contact the customer, whether that's via phone or via email. So these are kind of the high-level items that I presented to the team, and this is kind of what they've come up with. And they came up with two scenarios. One scenario, they came up and said, okay, listen, let's create something that's really going to look well and work well if you're on your phone. So I've kind of blown it up so we can all see it, but again, we can see it's got the form factor of a phone. And the idea behind it is I'm looking at my accounts receivable, and it's showing me all the things that are out there. And right now I can see Adultum has a balance of over $24,000. You know what? I probably want to find out what's going on with them. So I can click on the ellipsis, and it'll bring me to some details on it. Again, this is an early prototype. There's actually some more information we display now. But the idea is that I could see who's the contact, what's their phone number, how's that breakout by all the different companies that I happen to have defined in my database, and some other information like that. But what it would allow me to do is I could click on that icon for email, and it would go ahead and, based on the device I'm on, go ahead and interact with my email and allow me to go ahead and say, hey, by the way, you're over 24,000. Can you tell me what's going on? So again, it allows me to go ahead and interact with that customer. Now, another thing that might happen is I might be looking at my accounts receivable and go, you know what, 15,000, I could have sworn that we just received payment from City Power and Light. You know what, I should probably run an aging just to make sure this is right. So we can actually interact with our aging by clicking on the button across the bottom. It will take me to a screen where it gives me a listing of those SL life cycles that have been defined into SL. I could go ahead and choose one of them, click the execute AR aging, and if I say yes, it's going to go ahead and automatically run the aging process for me. Now, when it's done, I have actually set up a flow that's looking for this, and when it sees that the aging is run, this flow automatically goes ahead and attaches the results of that aging, and it emails it to me. Now, we could set up who that is, so I get the information, and again, this is an early example. This is kind of raw data right now, but the idea here is I can see who the customer is, I can see what their total balance is, and you can totally see that this is a demo database because everything is over 90. But again, this would be cleaned up a little bit nicer. But again, it gives you the idea. We can automate processes. We can send information to people when processes run using Power Apps. In this case, we're using Flow as well. And the idea behind it is that I might say, you know what, this is kind of interesting. I want to send this to my manager. If I'm set up to have a manager set up in the system, I can automatically send it to them. I could forward it on. But the thing to think about is that I can interact with that data here. We can even do some type of approval, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But then that gives me that idea that I can interact with the data. Now the next thing I said is that's cool, but what if I have a tablet or I've got a desktop person who really can take more advantage of their space? So they went ahead and created a very similar type of idea, but again, using the form factor that makes more sense here, I can actually go ahead and interact with that same data, see the same bit of information, but then I can come down and let's say we wanted to look at the phone company again, similar idea, similar type of idea, but a slightly different layout, but do those same things. So those are the things that we worked on that we really want to start making it available to you guys. And with SL 2018, these are just some of the examples that we're going to be initially rolling out when we have them available for 2018. So you can see Power BI, Power Apps, Flow. These are things that to me are going to be things that are really a really good investment of our Dynamics SL customers. We continue to add new enhancements, but be able to take advantage of these features, to be able to create an app that will interact and do what you want when you want it, I mean, that's really, really powerful. So again, we're going to create some of these things and put them out there as examples of things that you can do today. But the whole idea is that you'll work with Raffa to go ahead and say, okay, let's take it to the next step. What is an area that you're having a lot of pain in that we can use these features and functionalities to help you out with today? And we don't need to write this inside of Dynamics SL. This is going to be something that you can write and access where you want, which is exactly where we all want to be. So that leads me into, I apologize, I'm running late here. I apologize, Val. Running into, so what's coming out in SL 2018? Well, let's first announce the fact that SL 2018 is releasing, and SL 18 is scheduled for the first half of 2018. So that means anywhere between the January, February to June timeframe, we will release SL 2018. So put that on your calendars, look for it, and be excited to see what we'll talk about here in just a second. Now, one of the things that I wanted to announce as well is something that I've had great pleasure with the web apps, is the fact that in web apps we've been doing monthly releases. Well, it doesn't really work with the rich client, but what I've convinced them to do is to do quarterly releases of Dynamics SL. Now, what does this mean to you? This means that if the features I talk about, or if I get a really cool new, Power App thing or Power BI thing, I don't need to wait, a year or two for a cumulative update to release it. This means that I can put it out in the next quarterly update. So quarterly updates will be cumulative, so they'll have everything rolled together, but they'll be available for you to get and load out there. It's great for me because I always want something new. I always, as Microsoft has come out with these new technologies over the last year, you can see we're already ahead of the game getting things out there. But this allows me to continue to be keep up with the latest and greatest and not have you guys have to wait, years or several years to get a new version. So this is very, very exciting for me. This is something that I would say I've fought for, but I've actually, asked for. And I'm very, very excited to have this. So this means that if anything I talk about here in a second doesn't appear on day one, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means it might be slightly delayed based on different factors that will be out there. So I'm excited about that. So let's talk about what are the things that we're going to put into 2018, and I'm going to skip this since really this is what the details are. So to start on the right-hand side, Power Suite evolution, OData, being able to connect Power BI Power BI directly to your SL data is through something called OData. And that's something that we're developing and going to be shipping with SL 2018, which means that it'll make it easier once we have this official connector to SL out there. It'll make it easier for us and for other people to create new packs of information for SL that they can put out there and allow people to share. So this means that I can share more things with you once we have that out there. What you've seen, the Power BI, Power Apps, Flow, the things that we've started working on there, obviously spent a lot of time focusing on these new technologies to make sure that we as an SL community can take advantage of them, and then we can see them, play with them, and then continue to expand them, because that's really where I see Microsoft is spending a lot of time on those items, and I think they're of a great benefit to all of us. Now, one of the things I talked about with Flow is that it can interact with the data. one of the things that we are going to add, which is a big announcement, is that we are going to be adding an approval table to the Dynamics SL database with the initial release of 2018. So we'll have a generic table, and it will allow us to then add on approvals to different screens going forward, but it also means that if Raffa wants to use that approval table to do an approval process that we don't think of, it means they can customize an SL screen, use these tables to keep track of it as well. So again, first developing the table and then being able to roll it out to everyone as well. On the other side here are some enhancements, quick queries to continue to enhance them, the quick queries that we currently have, and add more. Also, there's a cool query and preview feature that we added for invoices, and being able to add that feature functionality across the board to be able to see a batch before you release it. That type of idea is something that we're focusing on. Web apps, we kind of already talked about, continuing to enhance that on a monthly basis. Now, for my financial people, one of my, I don't know if my pet peeves, but one of my focuses on is taking existing processes. Now, there are processes that may take 3 or 4 or 5 steps to do something, where I think it should only take 1 or 2 steps. So I'm not going to be able to rewrite and change, get rid of those 5 steps, but why don't we make some of these steps quicker? Why don't we automate some of them? So my focus has been taking anything, payables, ledger, receivables, and kind of enhancing the current process to make them easier for the current users of the product. The next is to my project people, continuing on with the project areas to continue to enhance it. One big area that we're looking to enhance is around being able to preview preliminary invoices, to be able to put them on a SharePoint site so people can view them, making the invoicing process quicker and being able to get more access to things that are out there. So those are just some of the things. Obviously, our roadmap, as I'm running along here, is that obviously this year we continue with web apps. We're obviously developing the 2018 features as well. The 2018 release will be the first half of next year, and we'll be adding new technologies as well, as you see listed. And then into 2019, continued ongoing development, we'll have our quarter releases of SL 2018 and so forth as we move forward. So I appreciate your time. I know there's a lot, and I get very excited. I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to Valerie, who's going to tell you, I'm telling you about things that are coming. What nice thing about what Valerie is going to do first, she's going to tell you about things that are available today that you can start using and using in the system right today and not having to wait for a next release. So Valerie, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can, and we can see your screen.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm just going to jump right into this. First thing I want to talk about is our SL 2011 year-end update package. If you haven't been able to get your system upgraded to SL 2015, we have a Band-Aid for you just for this year. You can reach out to Raffa and get our 2011 year-end update package so that you can run your year-end process. Since Microsoft will not be providing SL 2011 year-end updates and any further. So please feel free, reach out to Raffa, get your year-end update, and then get your system upgraded to 2015 or 2018 next year. One of the great products I wanted to talk about today was our Quick Find module. It used to be called Rainbow Search if you had seen this product before, but this product allows you to find information in SL very quickly. Okay, so you are able to go in and you could say, give me everything I have for a specific vendor over a specific amount of money. And you can use this colored legend down below and be able to say, give me everything greater than or equal to by hitting shift greater than sign. And it'll load all your results in a grid. And then the new functionality we've added in accounts payable, receivable, general ledger, and project controller is that you can export your results into an Excel pivot table. So this module is available for the 4 modules I just said, as well as inventory and purchasing, sales order, work order, and a number of other modules in SL. You can buy them in 2 separate packages. You can buy the core 4, or you can buy all of the searches, but it gives you great capability. We use this within Plumline all the time. I personally use it for, AR, trying to find invoices, trying to find things to answer customers' questions, and there are a lot of screens you might have to click through to do that. This puts all the information in one place. And then here is an example of the search grid that loads and then exporting that data into an Excel pivot table. Next thing I just want to say a little bit about is our audit trail module. We've partnered with a company called FastPath to provide a very powerful audit trail product to the Dynamics SL community. This gives you the ability to track any change made within SL. You can track any table, any field, as well as email reports to specific people. It's sold by your user count, and it is a very powerful auditing tool going into the auditing season where people may be asking you to provide digital path of changes made in SL. This is a way to provide that. We are coming up on the filing tax year, and you have to provide Affordable Care Act reports. If you do not have software that gives you the ability to provide your employees with the 1094 and the government with the 1095, please reach out about our Affordable Care Act product, because this works directly with SL, or it can work with any of your other payroll softwares. You can export the data into a pivot table and throw it up into the cloud and be able to process electronically your reports for the year and stay compliant, because you do have to file this year. One of our most popular products is our prepaids processor module. This module allows you to, instead of tracking your prepaids on a spreadsheet and having to enter the journal transactions for your debits and your credits every month, you are able to set them up one time and then hit a button to process them. It also provides your reporting capability. It's a great product, very inexpensive, and saves a lot of time if you are one of those people tracking your prepaids on a spreadsheet. I know I'm going really fast. I'm trying to stay within our time frame here. We have a credit card import product. If you are taking your credit card statement and having to hand key each line item into SL to update your vendor history and 1099 information, this product is for you. You can load your credit card statement into this grid, hit post to AP, and it will take every line item, create a voucher for every line item, a dummy check for every line item, and then a voucher for you to pay your credit card, instead of having to hand key these transactions into the system. And with another note on voucher or on paying things with credit cards, if you're paying your bills with credit cards, you can select all the vouchers that you want to pay with your credit card. You can hit export to a CSV and provide a file for your bank or your credit card company if you are using one of their programs to get money back or bonus back. You can export the information to a file there, as well as process the transactions in SL. So if you are wanting to pay your credit cards or wanting to pay your bills with credit cards, this module makes that a lot easier for you. We have vendor multi-remit. If you have multiple remittance addresses for a single vendor, and right now you have to set up a different vendor for each of those remittance addresses, this product gives you the ability to have multiple remittance addresses for a single vendor. So if you are one of those companies who needs to have multiple remittance addresses, this product is wonderful for you. One-time vendor, if you are a customer who needs to be able to cut a lot of one-time checks or refunds, things of that nature, and you don't want to set up multiple one-time vendors in your system, you could set one-time vendor up, and then every time you have a one-time vendor, you would enter the information into the grid, hit OK, and you could process that one-time vendor's information. So that makes it a lot easier for you. Second to last product I'll talk about is our AP Void Check Entry Plus. This is one of those products that Jeff had mentioned, making things multiple steps in SL, making it easier, not changing the steps, just making it one click instead of 3. AP Void Check Entry Plus allows you to void a check with the click of a button. It will create the void check entry, the debit memo batch, and the zero check batch for you just by clicking a button. You also have the AP Voucher Reverser as an option. If you don't have a check cut but you have a voucher and you need to reverse it, the AP Voucher Reverser comes with the program. So you get two functionalities, makes those steps a little shorter for you, speeds up your time, and saves you money. Last thing I'm going to mention is our fixed asset module. If you are one of those companies who are tracking your fixed assets on a spreadsheet or in a software outside of Dynamics SL, you should really take a look at bringing your assets into SL this year. Our product gives you the ability to create assets directly from accounts payable, general ledger, project controller, or purchasing transactions. You can also click a button to run your depreciation and post it to your general ledger. It also helps you with your 4797 tax reports and your 4562. So, as I sped through all of that information for you, as Glenn said before, we do have a promotion. And for you guys, for Raffa's customers, the promotion's supposed to end on November 30th, but we will push it out into December for you. December 15th will be your cutoff date. So if there are products, we have over 100 add-on products for Dynamics SL. If there are products that you would like to hear more about, just reach out to Glenn, tell him you want to see more and how we can help make your system work faster for you, and he will reach out and we can set up a demo, or we can provide you any information on any of the products you saw today. And last but not least, before I turn it back to Glenn, I just want to promote the SL Users Group Conference. It was canceled because of stinky Hurricane Irma this year, but it has been rescheduled in St. Louis on April 23rd through the 26th. It is something that Plumline Consulting promotes highly. So please, if it is something you can attend, join us there in St. Louis, because it's a great conference, provides a lot of content. With that being said, I'm going to turn this presenter back over to Glenn, but if you have questions for Jeff or myself about Plumline products or about SL, please put them into the question box at the bottom of your screen, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. We are here as long as you need us, or you can always send your questions to Glenn, do you have anything else you want to say? We don't see any questions in the question box.
Well, yes, I just want to thank everybody for joining today. And Valerie, you know how to do this thing to take everybody off of mute in case they have any questions as we're wrapping up here. But a couple of things I actually just wanted to point out. One, I think the stuff that's coming out in 2018 is just really neat, and I'm really looking forward to it, especially some of the stuff in web apps, Jeff. On the Plumline things, you know, for those of you that are listening in on the call, we get, you know, on our support queue, we get a lot of calls from clients when they're voiding checks, because they'll void a check and then they don't realize that it creates that voucher back in AP, and then the whole process just sometimes gets so confusing. This whole AP Void Check Plus seems to be a really neat enhancement that I think a lot of clients could have a really nice use for. And the fixed assets, for those of you that are out here, we've got probably a third of our clients or higher that are using the fixed assets module. And I would say everybody that's using it is really happy with it. It really automates that process of tracking your assets, knowing where they're at, doing the monthly depreciation, and then generating that report for those pesky auditors or tax accountants that come in at the end of the year and they need that depreciation schedule for the tax return. So a lot of neat things. Before we close out, does anyone have any questions for Jeff or Valerie or myself? Okay, no questions. Jeff and Valerie, you must have just hit it for a home run. And we're looking forward for folks joining all of us, Jeff, Valerie, and I, at the Users Group Conference in St. Louis. I'll be doing a presentation on government contracting for SL. And if you come, I hope you join me in my presentation. With that being said, we thank everybody for joining today. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to get your orders in for Thanksgiving so you have your turkey in time for getting it in the oven. So enjoy, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Glenn.